Here's something I kind of thought about. Um, so, one thing that you learn, well, two things. Um, I learned from one of my friends that, like, sometimes you do the healing, right, after a trauma, and then you realize, like, you don't want that first of all, the work that you did to get back to a stable place was so challenging that you don't want anyone else to have to go through that. You realize that some other people might, but if you could prevent it, you would, because like you realize how hard it was for you to do it, right? Now, I know for certain, because there's all these weird things, and I've said this to you guys before, I do not want to be a role model really for anyone. But unfortunately, people just will not let my narrative die. You know what I mean? It's like, no matter what I do, there continues to be someone who's like invested in the outcome, whether it's good or bad. And usually they're looking for like a bad outcome, which is very strange. Because like most people don't benefit from my like destruction. It just like all my tokens are in my own bag. They're not evenly distributed, so I don't even know how you could make a profit or a come up or something from my story. Is just my life, right? For a while, representation was a really big issue. I feel like Kelly Stamps really hit the nail on the head there and kind of proved it can be really profitable, really entertaining, basically, to be a black female content creator. And there's a lot of others. Cortreezy, very interesting girl. Kiana Naomi, very interesting girl. Like, there's so many, right? There's not just one. I suppose the only reason I feel like it's useful to make content is because I didn't realize that anyone was interested in this perspective. Like, I really am that person who just like kind of keeps to herself and stays in like my corner of the world. Oh, but one thing I learned over the last like 2 or 3 years is that when you don't tell your own story, someone else is just like telling the story for you. So that's one of the reasons I had to create the Finstagram account. So I had to create the Finstagram account because I needed other like humans in the society to see what was going on in my real life. And not some of, because like initially I wasn't posting, right? For a very long time, I didn't have an Instagram at all. It wasn't that I wasn't doing anything. I just wasn't posting about it at all. So like there's definitely stuff happening. I just didn't post about it. And like, why should I? But then comes a narrative of like other people who step in and they're all like, this person doesn't do anything. This person's never had any experiences. And one thing I realized is how that can seem true, because they know other people who have never had any experiences. Other people, especially people who look like me, who that's true for, even though it's not true for me. You know what I mean? That can be a little hard to understand. The only way you could really understand that is if you really do understand that everyone's an individual. Because if you don't look at people as individuals, then what you'll say is like, you'll look at one person who's wearing a blue sweater and you'll be like, you'll make this broad generalization. All people who wear blue sweaters are like this. All people who have tattoos are like this. All people who go to that restaurant are like this. All people who blah, 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 insert whatever trope are like this. That's just not true. Especially when you're talking about like racial issues. There's just no monolithic groups. And there really is no homogeny in terms of like whatever the black group is, just because there's so many countries, so many languages, so many religions. The cultures are all different. I don't know. It's very hard to like make a broad generalization. But one thing I will say is it's been hilarious to watch the Habesha community just I'm not gonna say everybody, but for the most part, it's been pretty silent. And like I said, I saw commentary from Betty. It had to be like a couple months ago. I don't remember what happened, but it was when all the stuff around Ukraine started. She was like, I remember when you guys said how difficult it was for you to empathize with what's going on in Ethiopia because it's so political, it's so difficult, so therefore you can't extend any empathy because you don't have the ability to, for whatever reason. It's too hard. So she was like, why can't we feel that way now? I don't need all of you guys explaining it to me. We were trying to explain it too, but nobody was listening. So why is everybody expecting all these empathy tokens? And that's when I posted my video about empathy tokens. All my empathy tokens have been used up. Every single one. I have no more empathy tokens. Not even one. They're all gone. So you can't expect any empathy out of me. But who knows? Maybe the next generation will have more. Maybe Gen Z will have empathy tokens left. I don't. I feel like for me, all I have is like resentment for marginalization and racism. So that you don't get empathy out of that. You get like disdain and anger. So, but that's not new. I feel like most people know how I feel. Nothing's changed. Also, I think people are assuming that like the more things that are happening, either in the world or with me, it's going to cause me to change my opinion or like force me into submission in some way. That never works. That doesn't work. All it does is push me further and further in the other direction, because there always is another direction. And as you can see, there's a lot of people who are very loud now. And I guess you can see it's like the same people. But just know it's not everyone. And that's one thing I've learned from all the, all the black churches that have been shot up. The silence is like, man, it's incredible. It's very strong. The silence is very loud. I think it's about time for black people in this country to stay silent. Just say nothing. Disengage from the conversation. Experience another feeling besides trauma. Maybe like contentment, or what else? Joy would be great. If you could get to joy, for sure feel that. Or you could feel like, I think neutral would be like a nice feeling to engage with. But, just my opinion.